And when I say 1, 2, 3, stupidity, you are there. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, stupidity! Unbelievably so. And the book is launched. And you can see for sure that all our panelists are actually here. No one's been imprisoned between the time the notices went out and today.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am not an economist or a political analyst, so I'm going to look at this question from the perspective of our institutions. Now, if you remember the most recent events, our institutions have been undermined for a long, long time. But if you look at the last few months, I think we've seen some of the worst of it. And for example, the task force that was set up between the AG, Bank Negara and MACC. You know, in early July, towards the end of July, the EDGE was suspended. The task force was set up in early July. The EDGE was suspended on the 27th of July. You know why. Of course, it's been reinstated. You know that. The court has reinstated. And of course, they are appealing that decision, unfortunately. Then you had the Wall Street Journal that came out with the expose. You had the cabinet reshuffle. You had the PAC undermined. You know how, because they elevated some of these people into the cabinet. Quite ingenious, actually, when you think about it. Then the entire task force, then the AG was sacked, of course. And the whole task force has been stymied. Now, the end result is this. All that happened in July. We are now in October. Do we hear anything about the task force or the investigations? If you remember, Bank Negara, Zeti, came out, and remember when she came out with that statement after Serum, we all waited with bated breath, thinking she's the strong one here and we're going to get something really explosive. Well, that went out with a whimper as well. But she did say this, that they had sent in a report recommending that action be taken, that enforcement proceedings be taken. And that report has been sent to the AG. We have heard nothing more about that. And it's 2-3 months down the road, nothing has happened. So effectively, Najib has managed to stymie the investigations. And then, of course, you know how he went after the MACC. They were really attacked. You remember Jessica, Rajpal, people who were hauled up, charged, remands applied for, the DPP who was detained because over this charge sheet, which they said was false. So I don't know why they were going after everybody. They said it didn't. They were going after people in respect of something they said didn't exist. So I couldn't follow that. Either there was a charge sheet or there was no charge sheet. Then you had Bari, Mohammad Zain and Rohaizat, who were in the MACC, the lower ranking officers, who showed far more courage than a lot of more senior people. And they were moved to the PM's department. You remember that. Then there was an outcry and they were moved back. Now, so there had to be a public outcry before that was fixed. So this is all happening in the last few months, and we are all watching aghast. We are actually in shock. We are actually a nation in shock. Do you realize you're all actually in shock right now? So if you don't make sense, or you're, or you're delirious, or you're saying silly things, don't worry. It's because of the country and our leaders. All right. Now, so what did everybody say? He wouldn't dare. Najib wouldn't dare. Did anyone expect Najib to do any of these things? You would have said no. It is outrageous what he has done. Okay, he has taken apart our institutions one by one. They were already weakened. Now he has completely taken them apart. And he continues to hold the finance ministry. And by the way, this 2.6 billion in his account, these stupid suggestions, and of course it's all bluff. The donation story, going by what Tony has said, I hope you appreciate that's all just bluff. The donation story is bluff. And unfortunately, it was not a very clever bluff. Because even in their bluff, they couldn't get it right. Because they were admitting to offenses under the MACC Act. Because it is, in fact, the presumption is against them. There's a presumption against them. I think Thuan Chye read that out from his book just now. There is a presumption against them, and that a donation is a gratification. And yet, no charges are brought. Nothing. To me, it is clear as daylight, actually, that something must be done, if it is, in fact, or donate. And then they've got into knots about that, naming this person in the Middle East, and then admitting that it was used for elections. Why? Because people want UMNO to stay in elections. Did they know what they were saying? They were saying that they were allowing foreign governments to interfere in our elections. How outrageous is that? Thuan Chye read that part to you as well. They don't even realize that the bluff wasn't really getting them out of trouble. It was getting them into more trouble. But there you are. That's the other thing about this so-called donation. Now, what we have now, so there's 2.6 billion, which the Prime Minister admits was in his account. All right? Despite that, and despite the lack of explanation, he continues as Minister of Finance. At the very least, I would expect a responsible cabinet to say, you have to relieve yourself of that post. At the very least. In fact, he should have immediately taken a leave of absence. And in many countries, you're expected to resign when you're facing such charges, okay? And where you've admitted money in your account. But he continues as Minister of Finance. He continues as the Prime Minister. But why? Why is Najib still here? I can tell you it wouldn't have happened if we had had a responsible cabinet. He wouldn't still be here. If we had a functioning parliament, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in parliament in October. There may be a motion of no confidence. Will it be carried? Well, your guess is as good as mine. I don't think so. Then, of course, we need fearless leaders of institutions. We had, but of course, they've been cut down. And the next level has to be as fearless. Are they? Do you see it? Do you see it happening? They're not there because they're fearless, okay? Let's be very clear about that. Now, of course, the other reason it won't happen is if UMNO puts the nation first. Because the bad news is that Najib is there because of UMNO. And UMNO alone. It's because he's managed to secure his position in UMNO. And that won't happen if UMNO puts the nation first. What I can say, the good news about all of this is that at least we're getting the truth. Painful though it is, and it is very painful. In fact, all of us are in a, you know, as I say, we're all in a state of depression and shock, actually. But at least the truth is coming out. The titans are fighting, and therefore a lot of rubbish is coming out. I mean, Tony and Rafizi have been going on and on about 1MDB for a long time. They picked it up first, a few years ago. But others have now realized the seriousness of the problem. So I remember saying to someone, look, I knew they were corrupt. I didn't know they were this corrupt. You agree? And also, interestingly, these are the few positives, all right? UMNO seems to be changing. You actually have that young lady who speaks up bravely. She's taking a suit. You have Khairuddin, who is under SOSMA, who actually took some steps. So you have a few people, and there are grassroots who appear to be speaking up. So something you would never have seen before. And I think maybe that is a positive. It's not good enough because it's not enough. Because what we have now is the money is gone, the ringgit is going, the task force is gone, the institutions are gone, but Najib is still here. That's the problem that we have. And unfortunately, it's because all our institutions, ultimately, our institutions have gone. And we don't have a responsible cabinet. We don't have responsible leaders who are putting the nation first. And that really, at the end of the day, is the problem. And you've also seen for yourselves now what it means to centralize and concentrate power in the hands of a few. This is the danger we have been talking about since 1988, when the judicial crisis was there, and all the institutions were being undermined one after the other. We are here because of that. We are here because we don't have the protection of our institutions. And that is a lesson for us. And maybe we are also here because so long ago, when all these things were happening, we didn't speak up loudly enough. Perhaps, I don't know. But really, I think what we're looking for, right now, we have leaders who are taking the nation to the brink. I want to see these leaders change, because they have no choice but to change. They have to change in the interests of the country, and they have to take a stand. MIC can take a stand. Well, that's a bit of a joke, lah. The minute I said it, I realized how funny that was. Yeah, MCA, okay, maybe not. But you know what? If they walked out, for example, let's just say, all right, they could possibly redeem themselves. They could possibly redeem themselves if they did the right thing now. And I say that for UMNO members as well. Do the right thing now. Because otherwise you're taking the nation to the brink with supporting racism on top of everything else. You're taking us to the brink, and you may not be able to pull us back. So for me, I agree with Terence, actually. Let's see how, I don't know whether we can afford the time to see it play itself out. I think the latest, Tony, if I'm not mistaken, there's something about 11 billion that is in the system. Well, I'll talk to you about that later, and then we can mention it. But there are more and more problems as we go along, actually. So I really think the question should not be, will Malaysia or Najib survive? For me, it's a question of whether or not Malaysia or our institutions will survive. Because without our institutions, we can't actually survive.